Hey fam, what's going on? This is Jessica Pickens. Welcome to Pickens Realities, our Blended Family Truths podcast. Welcome to What is Going On? Why? Every time.
And we're live. Thank you for coming. All right. Welcome back to another episode of Pickens Realities and Blended Family Truths, where we talk about blended family matters because blended families matter. I don't think I really introduced myself, so I'm going to introduce myself. I am Jayla. The oldest daughter, the grandest daughter, the greatest child, the grandest child, the elite child of all of them. I am the best.
Just for the record, again,
I created the best grandchild.
5 in-house, plus the one additional 6 siblings that would disagree with such shenanigans.
No, they wouldn't. They'll all just be like, we know our respective places. It's okay.
And I am Jessica. I am the mom, the wife of the Pickens family. And this here podcast, Pickens Realities and Blended Family Truths. Thank you again for tuning in to catch this episode. And so what we going to talk about today, Jayla? What's up?
Today we're going to talk about unrealistic expectations.
Ooh, Jesus. This is a week-long conference. For real. Oh my gosh.
Well,
for me at least, it needed to be.
Now let's start about.
Maybe y'all got it together.
Let's start with our jobs, okay? Y'all expect us to come to work? No, get out. All right. So unrealistic expectations in a blended
wife is
family.
A job. Yeah, so we can talk about it from a job perspective. Being a mom is a job.
I'm talking about corporate America,
girl.
Y'all expect us to tell us y'all did. We did. You didn't come to work. That's gonna be on our casket a note. You didn't come to work this day, so we're firing you. Like, unrealistic expectations.
From, but okay, all right.
Anyway, so there's a lot of unrealistic expectations, especially when it comes to blended families. Blending families, creating families, having a family, being in a family, being alive, breathing.
Very true.
For
real. Very true.
One of them is the instant family myth. So many people assume that blending a family results in quick blending, which ultimately is an instant family. So what are some unrealistic expectations for blending families?
Ooh. Yeah, that one right there, the myth, the instant family myth. Good. I don't know if you came up with that or you and chat was back there working, but that was a big one for me. I was very, very unrealistic from that perspective. As far as, I think a lot of people. In this day and age, again, I call me and your dad, we were crazy kids, even though I was 29, he was 31.
Still kids, because I'm 27. I'm a child, because they was too grown for me. Man. Okay, they was 29 getting married.
I was 29, he was 31. It was his second marriage, so
And that's even crazy. Y'all grown. Y'all was grown in y'all day.
And so, but I just had an extremely unrealistic thought process, expectation. Again, we met and married within 90 days, which is crazy all by itself, by most people's terms, right? I know back in the day, I don't, but a lot of when I tell that story to people that don't know us, and even some people that do know us, who started watching the podcast, they didn't realize, and so now when you sit and you think about that, you'd be like, wait a minute, oh my gosh,
That's back crazy. In the day, they used to, I know he's the love of my life after 3 days. Well, and they run off in the sunset.
But I think for me, because ever since I was a child, family was like the number one thing that I desired. That's what I wanted. I wanted a family. I wanted to be married. I wanted, a large family, because I wanted to be able to create, guide, and experience what I didn't have growing up, if you will. And I think just part of it too, just innately, it's just who I am. Family is like everything. God and family, like for real, right? Like for real, for real. But in my head, I guess, I had this picture in my head, and I thought that because of who I was and my love and my commitment, now that I'm thinking about it, that it would just make everything instantly so, if you will, right? Like, okay, I now have a husband and 3 additional kids, so I'm going from being a single mom with just Jayla and I to I now am married with a husband and 3 additional kids, so now 4 children overnight, and all of the additional work responsibilities that come along with all of that, and just thinking that everything was just going to, from day one,
be the Brady Bunch.
Man, magically just fall in place and be good. Right? And just, okay, it goes from me and Jaylen to, bam, 4 more people in the house, and we go from a party of 2, to a party of 6. And I did not at all. I didn't know to think through and contemplate. I just knew in my heart that I wanted to be the best mom and wife that I could to everybody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And boy, just thinking that everybody felt how I felt. I think that was the biggest thing, right? Like not assessing.
Everybody was happy with what was going on.
Right. It's from you all's perspective, right? So one, hugely jacking that expectation up, thinking that, and I've talked about that before, a little bit, that the adults fall in love, not the kids. So for those of you out there, again, remember, if you're a single parent, or if you're, you've been married previously and you're divorced, you have kids and you desire to be married again, you are headed towards a blended family situation. And starting to ask yourself these questions now is hugely important. We're probably going to get into that, but that number one unrealistic expectation, thinking that everything will automatically fall in place and kind of no work or intentional strategies and processes really needed, is so dead wrong. It is wrong. It's wrong, because you need to sit down and think through and process and get an understanding on where is everybody on the game board.
What's the relationship with the other person, the other party on both sides, as far as the children's parents are concerned?
Yeah, the other co-parents, where are you at with that? Where are the children at with how are they really feeling about their new family that they may or may not
what's crazy about that is that's 88% of people that are going to be in a blended family nowadays.
Well, here's the statistic, right? And we talked about this with Ron Deal, because he actually partnered with the university to do the research. In today's time, and this is a couple years old, and I keep looking for additional information. So this is something we really need to figure out, how can we get involved and advocate for. But even from a couple years ago, when you look at, in the United States, 40% of marriages involve children that already exist, which means that's blended families being formed.
So let's also, that's 40% of marriages.
Exactly.
So imagine all the people that are just dating
and doing relationship, living together.
Right.
What
is it called by the state? Like a
common law marriage.
Common law marriage.
7 years. Different states have, and I don't know what they are, but different states have different rules. Where if you've been living with someone for 7 years, by common law, you're considered married. Well, it used to be. I don't know current, but yeah, common law. But and again, if you're playing house, you're playing house, even if you don't have a license. Now, we don't advocate for such, because that's a whole nother discussion.
The license, in my personal opinion, is for the government to control what's going on. Because in the Bible, it say marriage, you're not signing a piece of paper in the Bible to have a marriage. That has become a government. Let's not go down that road.
Stay focused, please.
Jayla. Jeez Louise. Yes. Okay, so that's kind of
unrealistic.
What I was talking about is families, whether married or not, they're going to be blended majority of the time in the way today's society has grown, because people would rather, have kids and not be married, or have dealt with people and it didn't work out. And, because majority of relationships end up failing after children are born, because people don't communicate and understand hormones and all the changes that happen. So I was saying all that to say, if you're in a step family term, technical,
which we say blended, yeah, same thing, y'all. So again, if you're tuning in, we the common term step family, we say blended family.
If you're in a step family relationship, I feel like one of the biggest things about the instant family situation is automatically thinking. I don't even want to say automatically thinking, because is it being oblivious and delusional to think that the co-parent is going to be cool with it?
Well, so that's a different angle. I thought you were about to talk about from the kid's perspective, right? Because the co-parent,
well, we can talk about the kid's perspective too.
Yeah, but the I think
they're a mitigating factor, because if it's a situation like where our mom, right, dad can, she's the worst person in the world, right? And I don't know if that's what he did.
No,
probably didn't.
No,
but
he did not.
The parent could say she's the worst person in the world, blah blah blah, to you, right? So now you're having this perception. But in reality, the mom is active in the life of the children, right? So I feel like in those situations, the co-parent is a factor.
Well, co-parents are always a factor because it impacts the flow of the household, period. Right. But I'm just saying, when you say so there's these different there's different stakeholders. Mm-hmm. So let's, again, I think that if we always, if we discuss, if people were to view and discuss and look like family, like from a kind of as a business lens, like seriously, then it allows you to think through things different. Because, so to the beginning joke, being a mom is a job. Being a wife is a job. Running your household, girl, I'm operations all day long. Mm-hmm. There are things that need to be done. People have schedules. You got to keep people on track, on task, all of that. And so when companies are looking at trying to achieve objectives, they have to consider who are the relevant stakeholders involved. In a blended family, co-parents, the biological parents of any children, the other biological parents of the children that were brought to this family, from either the husband or the wife, or the mom or the dad, right? Mm-hmm. There's someone on the other side of it that has to be considered if they are known, alive, active in the children's lives, right? And whether that's from a positive, peaceful, if you're in a good place as far as your co-parenting relationship with the biological parent of your child, whether you're in a neutral zone, like not good, not bad, we just figure it out, but it's not stellar, but it's not horrific, or if you're in an adversarial, situation with the co-parent of your biological child, yes, those factors absolutely impact the dynamics of your blended family, because you cannot navigate.
So you can't just expect, oh yeah, we're together, everyone else is out. Like, you can't just expect that. You have to expect to have
it's not realistic.
Some type of relationship with the outside parent.
Well, one.
Do you feel like that?
Yes, because
do you feel like both parties have to have a relationship with the outside parent, or just the co-parent of that parent?
I think that what is healthiest for the children involved is for adults to be adults and to at least be respectful and play in the sandbox in a civil and nice manner. Because there's nothing more traumatizing for children than to watch parents, biological and or bonus, being at each other's throat or into it or disrespectful or non-civil in the presence of the children. And so do I think that everyone can achieve the status that we have? I don't think that that's realistic. And we didn't start there. There was a lot of very intentional effort on my part for you all's sake, relative to your mom's interaction. And because she lived in the same vicinity, town, you all went back and forth. And again, there's a lot of dynamics.
I feel like y'all all of y'all didn't even get cool till we all low-key moved out.
No, but that's like, I disagree with that. I don't think
I feel like there's always been and I don't even want to say issue, but it's not really like y'all have been tolerable of each other. But as far as the extent of where we're at now, more
civil and more kind. It was not just tolerable. I disagree with that concept, and I think, to be honest, in my opinion, part of your perception is because of where you were and how you felt and viewed it. But I don't think that you realize that literally from jump. Like Dawson was born on our first year anniversary, and that Christmas, I invited your mom to come and her then husband to come and do Christmas dinner with us at our house so that she could be with you all on Christmas. And she came.
But that don't mean
and we had
everything was cool.
It was cool enough. But cool and cordial is cool and cordial. Moving into a different layer of relationship, have we grown? Absolutely. But that wasn't just being tolerable.
That's what I'm saying. You guys was cordial, tolerable, whatever you want to call it, at that point. And I think the relationship of you guys actually having a more in-depth relationship, I think that's the word I want to use, didn't really happen until
came later. Yeah, because there was a lot of, I think so from a expectation perspective, right? And again, we're always looking for how do we share our lessons learned and our experiences in a way that can benefit our audience and people watching. On the front end, so to your point, being more realistic with expectations, and again, both the two people that are coming together to create the blended family, one, you need to discuss up front, honestly, what's the status and the deal with the other party, the other biological parents, right? Like, are they involved? Are they not? Well, and again, our situation was unique as well, because typically, I mean, you all lived with your dad. When typically,
it's usually
most of the time when there's been a separation or a divorce, the kids stay with the mom. And again, it's not uncommon. I mean, it's not as common for the kids to be with the dad, full time. So our situation was a bit unique, and the dynamics would have been totally different had that been our scenario. Jesus, could you think about, Lord have mercy. Well, I don't know if that would have helped or hurt Tyrone and your dad and Jaylen's relationship. I honestly don't know.
I feel like it would have low key, honestly,
it might have helped.
I was gonna say, I feel like it would have helped because it would have really just been y'all in the house. Because then he would have had time.
But so you see what I mean? So you have to sit down and assess your dynamics,
right?
And to me, what I'm saying is that setting the unrealistic expectation on my end was multifaceted. So to your point, because you're coming out the gate from an angle of, do people have unrealistic expectations about how the blended family will function in a peaceful manner out the gate? Consideration number one, what's going on with the other biological parents? So you need to sit down and ask these questions. What is your relationship with your ex-spouse or your child's
baby
parent,
mama, baby daddy, whatever you want to call it?
And be honest about it.
Yeah.
Because again, if there's still resentment or hurt or unforgiveness that exists on anybody's behalf.
Oh, you just look like Gabby.
she looks like me, I'm the mama,
somebody,
then there's going to be issues, because that means then there's going to be issues, and you need to be transparent. And here's our, we had another episode on communication. You need to communicate that so that your new spouse is not walking into getting blindsided, right? Because every time your ex-wife shows up, she want to burn holes in your head because she's resentful. You know what I'm saying? You got to sit down and talk through this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? What is it not? And then you honestly have to assess and be realistic. What we did not do is consider the impact of the lightning speed marriage that we had on you all from multiple angles and ways. Mm-hmm. Right. And so thank God we made it. But again, as we've been talking about, it's work. But so for folks that are out there preparing to blend, you're prepping, again, y'all, just if you are a single parent, or if you've been divorced, if you've got kids, you're no longer with the other biological person that helped you create the kid, and you desire to be married again, you are headed towards a blended family. If you're in relationship, you are in a blended family scenario, and you need to assess and take a look at all of this stuff. But so assessing the co-parenting situations on that exist, whether it's one or both sides, you got to do that, because it is thinking that, like you said, oh, everybody's going to be okay with us being this. No, that's not. No. But right. A lot of time it's because things have not been unpacked between the biological parents.
True enough. Yeah. Because it done took.
And again, this podcast, your dad and your mom, we talked about, being able to find healing and stuff that they had not talked through one-on-one. And when you're sitting here and you're just talking through, sometimes you go, man, and you're able to hear and see the other person's perspective. May not be your truth.
Yeah.
But just to hear and see from the other person's perspective. And then you go, man, I never looked at it or thought about it like that, which then you may be more willing to go, man, I'm sorry. That's not what was meant, or man, I didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now that through just talking, and that's what we're saying, y'all, talk.
Just talk.
Get through it, get help to navigate it. But it's bringing a level of healing and peace. Mm-hmm. In a way that allows us to function as a much healthier family unit as a whole. Because to your point, your co-parents are still a part of your family. As long as it's breath in there, until people start dying, you're still family.
Unless they're just not active. Then
it's unfortunate for the children. For the children, adults may be happy.
I don't know if it's unfortunate. I don't think it'd really be that unfortunate for the child. If you got if
it could be. So from my perspective, I'm just saying, if all adults were to choose to be adults and do what they need to do, because kids don't ask to be here.
They don't.
And so when you make a baby, you being grown enough to do what you're doing to make a baby, then realizing the level of responsibility that comes along with that, no matter what you did or didn't have, or what's going on, you can make choices to do the best that you can to be.
Child, some people be knowing the responsibility and just choose not to be a parent.
Agree.
Because they know the responsibility.
Agree.
But that's a whole nother other. Anyway, so expecting equal love and treatment is a big unrealistic expectation. So how did this impact our relationships?
Which perspective are we talking about? Are we talking about equal
parents,
love and treatment from parent to child, or kid to parent, both ways? Which, because, yeah, it was unrealistic, and it and I've said this before on previous episodes. And it may not set well with some people, but it is what it is. Free country, you're free to believe what you want to believe. My experience, my truth, you do not have the same level of love and relationship with a child that you did not birth than the one that you did birth. Mm-hmm. And so, blended families are a different type of playing field. Just, that's a dynamic that needs to be assessed and considered honestly out the gate. And we haven't used these terms in a minute, but again, when we, as we're educating ourselves and doing what we do, and we talk about biofog and step vision, that's that whole conversation, right? Like, because you have a different level of, my experience. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% because there's anomalies that exist in the world, no doubt. But innately, when whether you're the mother or the father, your attachment to your children that are your biological children is different than your attachment to your children who God has given you to parent and raise and play a parent role with. It's different because that's a relationship that you have to.
If it's a situation where you don't take the time to know them first. I feel like it will always be different because you're not their biological parent, whatever. But I 100% feel like if it's a situation where you get to know the kid first.
And you put the effort in.
Right.
Agreed. But it's still time because that has to be, again, we use me and you, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just go straight. Our relationship is a very good example of, I wanted great relationship with you from the beginning. I was unrealistic. I thought that would just be reciprocated immediately just because, what kid doesn't want a 2-parent household, in my head, incorrectly, because that's some.
Because I'm over here like, I got 2 parents. They got households. What are we doing?
Yeah, so I agree with you that it is realistic to think, believe, and put effort behind building relationship with your children that you did not birth to get to a place of love and a bond, right? So we talk about one of the main goals of everything that we're doing is how can we share information so that families are not just they're not just blended because we became a family, but you put in the work to become bonded, right? Because the goal is the family stays together, you leave a legacy. You want, how do you navigate these dynamics, these challenges that exist with blended families that are different than a traditional setup. Families alone look, and I'm not saying traditional families are all unicorns and rainbows.
Right, I feel like we say that every episode. Traditional families matter. For real.
Yeah, but we're talking about, I completely agree that you can get there, but it is unrealistic to think that there is an equal playing field between bio and bonus kids out the gate. Not realistic. Yeah. And as we keep, again, you can't say it enough. Intentional focus, sitting down and mapping out. So learning how each person communicates and learns, receives, learning love languages, right? Had I known out the gate and understood more clearly when you were a child why you are sensitive about who's in your space and you don't really like people hugging you, touching you, your automatic response, if I don't say I love you to you as much as I say it to some of the other kids, your brothers included, the ones I didn't birth, because I now understand that's just not who you are. So I've learned I don't take offense to that, but I'm not going to force something on you that makes it worse for me once I began to understand who you are and how you're built. Does that make sense?